For some reason, the software I've been using to record these quit on me, so I'm going to start over from this screen right here. So you're going to get two videos for Chapter 14. But anyways, talk about Social Security. You can see here what the requirements are. Benefits are increasing at 8% per year if you defer taking benefits after age 60 until you reach 70. So there's additional reasons then to wait until 70. That's the maximum that you would get if you wait and retire then. Surviving spouse, minor children receive benefits if worker meets 40 quarters test, or at 6 quarters during the previous 3 years. So there is a surviving benefit portion to it if the wage earner were to pass away. It's primarily funded by payroll taxes, so when you work, 6.2% of your salary is withheld for Social Security, and your employer matches that. If you're self-employed, you have to pay the 12.4%, and there's limits to that. So you can see in 2015 it was $118,500. So once you make above that, you no longer pay that tax. For the other part of what's included is Medicare, which is the other part of FICA, which is 1.45% paid. 1.45 is paid for by the employee, and then also matched by the employer. And again, if you're self-employed, you pay both of that. You just double that rate. For benefits then, if you're retired at full retirement age in 15, you would receive $2,663 per month. That amount would be reduced though by premiums for Part B Medicare, and you're taxed on that. So you basically are taxed that income just as if it was regular income. And that assumes you've paid in for the last 40 quarters, which is of course 10 years. Spousal benefits, if worker retired, would be half that amount received by the worker. For middle income taxpayers, 85% of those benefits are included as taxable income. Just it might be different based on your tax bracket, but for the vast majority it'd be at 85%. And you can see here what the average benefits are then based on what type of beneficiary that you are: retired, retired couple, disabled, disabled with spouse and child, and so on. About 40% of full-time workers are covered by some kind of a employer-funded pension plan. However, there's a trend where that is now increasing to what they call defined contribution plans funded with salary reduction agreements by employees. So, typically pure pensions, the way they kind of used to be, are fading away for a number of reasons. They are really big liabilities that have to be carried on the books of companies, and a lot of companies don't want to have to carry these large liabilities. So you're seeing a lot of companies move away from just pensions that are fully funded by the employer, and you're seeing a shift to what they call 401ks, which are more that defined contribution plan. If you are a government employee of some sort, teacher, city, state, county, there's a good chance then you are receiving a pension. That's what you get. But if you work more for a corporation or a private company, most likely you're not getting a pension. So pensions typically are now more government related, or if you work for a company that has a union presence and you belong to that union, then you might have a pension. So just some basics then of pension plans. There's two types. Defined benefit pension plans are plans where the benefits are determined by a formula, such as 2% of your final salary for each year of service. So if you work for 30 years and your final salary was $50,000, your pension would be $30,000 per year. The employer must add to that pension in that amount each year that will provide the estimated benefits. So these funds are invested and subject to market risk. The employer takes the risk, not the employee. So essentially what's happening is the employer then funds that plan by setting money aside with a trustee, and the trustee invests that money. It's subject to market risk, so if the trustee does not make great investments, there might be an issue, but the employer is funding that and taking the risk. But you are promised then that $30,000 per year. There's a shortfall because of market risk. The employer is having to cover that. Defined contribution plan is an amount added to the plan each year perhaps 10% of your salary is invested. The amount can be paid by the employee, or both. And the benefit here is based upon the amount in the plan at the time of retirement. The employee now is bearing the market risk, since the pension will vary based upon the market returns of the funds in the plan. This is your 401k. Okay, so this is really where things are changing for a lot of companies, because there's no liability for the company to carry. Instead, what the company is doing is just simply funding it. Now, it's up to the company how they want to do this, and it's really up to the company what those percentages are. There are IRS limits based on age, but they're pretty high. You can definitely be more than 10% for a lot of people. And so a lot of companies, what they'll do is they'll match a certain number. So if you put in 3%, they'll match 3%. I worked for a company where I was the 401k administrator, and we gave everybody 3% no matter what. So if everybody got 3%, that was it. And so that's what we did. Some companies will give you more than that. It's really up to the company. It's part of benefits, and it's a part of keeping employees happy and attracting them also. But typically what a company does is they'll contract with some kind of investment company like Fidelity or the Hartford, or there's all kinds of them out there. And then an array of mutual funds will be offered to employees to choose from, and then as they designate how much they want set aside from their salary, that will then put those funds into the mutual funds that they are telling the company to put their money into, and the individual investor or the employee then takes all the risk. They choose where that money goes, what mutual funds, and so the employee is deciding how that gets invested. They also have what they call a cash balance plan, fully funded by employers who guarantee a minimum return, whatever that is. The funds are invested for employees' benefits. The pension is based upon the balance of the fund at retirement. Pension is not related to salary retirement. So that's another one where the employer is just setting aside a certain amount of money per year. It gets invested, and then basically whatever that's grown to is what you get, without any tie to what your ending salary is. Excuse me. Any participation in a plan must be non-discriminatory. That means that you cannot give greater benefit to higher income employees than lower paid. Everybody gets the same percent, whatever that percent is. And the plan will vest, means it belongs to the employee either immediately or when work is done. Different companies do it different ways, and there's some IRS rules around this too. 401k matching typically vests right away, almost always, but there's some other types of pensions that you might have to work for the company for 3 years or something like that, or the amount you get vested goes up the longer you're there. You're fully vested after 6 years. There's lots of ways to do it. There are some IRS rules you have to comply with, but it's really up to the employer exactly how they want to do that. Supplemental plans are also available. Employer may provide opportunity for employees to contribute to a supplemental plan of some sort, or they're making some plan available that employees can elect to take advantage of. There's no requirement to, but and even a 401k is not a requirement for you to take. But funds contributed to the plan are invested and are tax deferred until withdrawn by the employee, typically at retirement. How funds invested could be decided by the employer or by the employees. So it's just the employer having some other plan available to take advantage of if employees so desire. There's profit sharing plans. There are funded by the employer. The amount contributed depends on the amount of profits the company has earned, and then these can go into some kind of a retirement account, and then of course then the employee gets that upon retirement. There's thrift and savings plans where the employer matches some portion of contributions by the employee. This is your 401k where the employer is doing some matching. Funds are invested by a trustee for benefit employees. I'm sorry, this is not quite the 401k. This is kind of an alternative to a 401k where the employer is doing some matching, but the funds are invested by a trustee. the employees don't decide how the funds are invested. A trustee does. So it's a little bit different. So here's more about the 401k. Now 403b or 457, they're all the same thing, and these are all subsections of the IRS tax code. It's just like at USF, we're a nonprofit, so we don't have a 401k, we have a 403b, which is exactly, it works the same way. I mean, there's really no difference except it's a little different section of the tax code. So the employer is making contributions to plan using funds withheld from employees under a salary reduction agreement. The employee decides where to invest those funds, typically within a mutual fund company, a family of funds from a mutual fund company. The amount's limited, and limit changes along with consumer price index. And so how much can be put into those, again, limited by age and just by the CPI. Roth plans are a little bit different. With 401ks, any money that you have set aside for your retirement, and a lot of traditional, what they call IRAs, which stands for Individual Retirement Account. So if you have a 401k or a traditional IRA, any money you put into those is not taxable. It's as if you never earned it. The government will not tax you on those funds. So they are a tax deferment device. Basically, the government's saying, okay, we'll give you the incentive to put money away for your retirement by giving you a tax break today. However, when you withdraw those funds at retirement, you are then taxed. They're just taxed at your whatever your marginal tax rate will be at that moment in time in the year that you withdrew the funds. A Roth IRA is different, and it's actually a really good deal. So I would highly encourage you to consider one of these. A Roth IRA, you have no tax benefit when you invest in them. So there's the money that you're using is what I'll call after-tax dollars. They're basically funds that you have available after you've paid your taxes for the year or whenever that time period is. And so you're taking that money and then putting it into a Roth IRA. But the good news is anything that builds up in a Roth IRA is not taxable because you have used after-tax dollars to fund that IRA. So it's a great way to build up a retirement account that is not subject to tax upon withdrawal. It's a great deal. And the rules are you have to be 59 and a half when you make those draws for them to be tax-free, and you must have invested those funds for 5 years. Okay, so Roth plans, you pay the tax first, invest the after-tax proceeds, and when you withdraw that, you do not pay tax, which is different than traditional plans where you are using pre-tax dollars to build up that portfolio, and then you're taxed on what you withdraw. So typically a really good deal, just FYI. If you want to supplement your retirement, a Roth IRA is the way to do it. You also have what they call KEO and SEP plans, SEP plans. These are designed for small businesses and for self-employed people. So typically if you're self-employed or work at a smaller company, this is what you'll take advantage of. They work very similar to the other types. It's just they're designed for these types of businesses and companies. Maximum you can contribute is 25% of your earned income, or $53,000 in 2015, and then if you withdraw prior to 59.5 as a penalty. Otherwise, normally invest in mutual funds chosen by the participant in the plan. So some other types of supplemental plans, I mentioned IRAs, I mentioned the traditional where you're using before tax dollars versus the Roth where you are using after tax dollars. Advantage depends upon the comparison of tax rates now versus tax rates in the future, although I've had some financial people run these numbers for me, and it's almost always more beneficial to have a Roth IRA. So the answer to me is whatever your company will contribute in a 401k, take advantage of. For example, if the company you work for says, we'll match up to 3% or 4% or 5%. Every company is a little bit different. But let's just say you work at a company and they say, we'll match 3%, but you got to put $1 in to match $1. So if they're saying if you put in 3% of your salary, we'll double that, we'll match 3%. Do that. You're crazy not to do that. Okay, so take advantage of that opportunity. However, if you want to put more away for future retirement, then the next step that you should do is take advantage of a Roth IRA. And that will build up over time. And then the nice thing is when you retire, anything you draw to that Roth IRA is tax free. It's a great deal. So almost always, the numbers will tilt towards you doing a Roth IRA versus a traditional if you're looking to supplement your retirement above and beyond a 401k. Annuities and an investment product created by life insurance companies. They provide a series of payments over time. The distributions are part return on investment and part cost or investment cost, and also some interest income. Sometimes they have survivor benefits, and you can buy these that are tax deferred and built as a retirement vehicle. There's all kinds of types of annuities out there. You can just do a lump sum, you can make installments, you can buy what they call either a flex or fixed, where if it's fixed you make a series of equal payments. If it's flexible, you kind of make the payments you want. And then you decide, when you buy an annuity, you decide how you pay that premium, and then you also decide when will payments back from the insurance company come back to you. Will that be right away, or will it be at some point in the future? Depending on when you want them, the timing, you can do some tax deferment with these, so you can tie these into a retirement plan. It says that then the deposition of proceeds, there's all kinds of terminology around this. If it's an annuity certain, you get a certain amount no matter what. It could be tied to your life. It could be just for a certain amount of years, either as a lump sum or installment or a large cash payment. There's all kinds of ways that you can choose to set it up. There's lots of options to fit your needs, basically. And the benefits, as they grow, you can do what they call either fixed or variable. Fixed meaning you're just getting a certain rate of return that the company will give you. Variable means you can invest those monies that you've invested in that annuity. You can invest that money into mutual funds that you choose, and so you are taking on the risk for how much your annuity will grow. So it's really up to you how you want to do these, but these are just another way to build retirement income and let your money set aside tax-free and then get a return back. Now, these are taxable, so what you receive back as proceeds will be taxed. So I've already kind of mentioned a lot of these here already just from the previous screen, but you can combine these with life insurance benefits also if you would like to. There's lots of options with these. If this is something that you want to get into, you'll have to speak with an agent who will kind of walk you through the process and the expectations and how to do this and why it might be a good deal for you to do. So if it's something that you would like to do, they're very safe, so it's useful for somebody who's risk adverse. It's very possible to take your defined contribution amounts and purchase a fixed annuity at retirement to give you stable retirement income. However, there is a high commission with these. Insurance companies pay a pretty good chunk of commission to the agent who sells you this, so that reduces your annual return potentially is because of that. But if you're looking to minimize risk at retirement, an annuity is a good way to do that, and that's why a lot of people like them. They're very safe, they're very stable. You can count on a certain amount of dollars coming back to you on a monthly or annual basis. Okay, so that was chapter 14.